Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Royal Daily Tea Live with special guest HG Tudor. I hope everyone is doing well today. Of course, my TV would start playing. Hi, everyone. Hi, I belong to HG. Hi, Penny. Hi, Zayeb. Hi, Lulu's mom. We're going to give people a couple of minutes to join us here on the live because I know it takes a couple of minutes. Hi, Allison. How are you? You're in the gym. We're going to have a very exciting show for you today. So, HD Tudor, this was your birthday month. So, I want to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you very much. 21 again, naturally.
Oh,
So,
yes,
mm,
21. Did you do anything fun that you can
it,
tell us?
well, it might not have happened yet,
Oh, it may not have happened, so it may not have been your birthday yet. Okay.
perhaps, or maybe it already has. You see, I remain mysterious about this and cryptic that it takes place at some point in September, but seeing as September hasn't concluded, so
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm going to take the fifth on whether I have done something or whether I haven't yet.
Well, we'll just have to sing you happy birthday, wish you happy birthday. And I'm so glad that you're here on your birthday month because today is going to be a very interesting show. But before
Mm.
we get into today's show, I am going to do a little bit of a disclaimer so people can be aware. We are going to talk about sex and the narcissist. We might talk about some taboo subjects. So if you're someone who gets easily offended or if you're not comfortable with that subject matter, if you have kids that are in earshot, you might want to put on some headphones or perhaps come back and listen to it at another time. But we are going to get into sex and the narcissist, BDSM. So, again, if this is something that you're not comfortable with, go ahead and skip this one, go listen to our other ones, or come back at a later time. But I just want to put that disclaimer out there just in case you're someone who doesn't like the topic. So today we're going to get into sex and the narcissist. We're going to talk about the captivating examination of the narcissist relationship with sex, the direct and unbridled journey through the narcissist sexual arena. And we're going to address a lot of important questions like what does the narcissist think during sex? What is their sexual identity? And how does the narcissist use sex in seduction and devaluation? And why is the sex with the narcissist often addictive? So, HG, when it comes to sex and the narcissist, what is some of the core motivation that a narcissist would use sex for? Like people, we use sex to connect with someone, to have passion. And we know that you guys have passion. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, what is their main motivation for sex? Or are there many motivations?
Well, as I've explained previously, Michelle, that when a narcissist is dealing with another person, they are driven by the pursuit of the prime aims, which is the necessity of controlling that individual, most likely drawing fuel from them, possibly gaining character traits and residual benefits. So that's destination prime aims. And the job of the narcissism is to compel the narcissist to find a route to get to that destination. And there are lots of different ways that can be done. And today we're addressing probably the biggest route that exists to get to those prime aims, and that's the use of sex. So the narcissist will use sex as a means of controlling the other person. The narcissist will use sex as a means of drawing fuel from them. So all of the oohs and the ahs and the give it to me, big boy, and gosh, that feels so good, and the shrieks and the screams, all of that provides large amounts of proximate fuel to the narcissist. Dependent upon the position of that individual in the fuel matrix, potency, it can also be highly significant of that fuel. There is also the residual benefit. Some narcissists will use sex as a means of making money, whether it might be as an escort, prostitute, or perhaps operating OnlyFans and using sex in that way. Also, Narcissists have nerve endings too. So it feels pleasurable to the narcissist. So the sensations whilst having sex are pleasurable for the narcissist, and should climax or orgasm be achieved, then that's also a residual benefit. Now, sex is utilized by the narcissist because, as you've just touched on, the victim often conflates that with intimacy and love. The narcissist's use of sex is essentially to exploit it for the narcissist's needs in the interpersonal relationship between them and the relevant victim. Whether that person is a one-night stand or a hired prostitute or a John that's gone to a prostitute who's a narcissist, or whether it's someone that they're dating or having an affair with, or whether it's their boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse, long-term partner, whoever they are and the dynamic that exists, it is being exploited by the narcissist for their own needs. And the narcissism simply looks at it and says, sex is a brilliant method of getting the prime aims. Let's use it. And all narcissists use sex in some shape or form to achieve the prime aims, varying dependent upon their school and their cadre. The ones that use sex most in the sense of being hypersexualized are somatic and elite narcissists. Cerebral narcissists will have physical sex, but as the name suggests, they are more likely to use talking about it, dirty telephone calls, sexting as a means of utilizing sex. Victim narcissists are likely to be more submissive in their behavior, often utilizing incompetence as a way of gaining a response from the other individual. I've said before that if baking a chocolate cake was the most effective way of gaining the prime aims, narcissists would be master bakers. Because sex is such a fundamental method of getting to those prime aims, it is utilized heavily as a major weapon of seduction by narcissists. And it is a very, very potent route to getting to the prime aims.
How is sex used, though? So you say sex is used to get to the prime aims. Do they do it simply because the person who is having sex thinks that they're romantic, that they're bonding? Is it the art of seduction? Like, how does the behavior of the narcissist differ due to the different type of narcissist? So I know sex ultimately, what happens during sex, but is it also the lead up to sex? Is it the seduction? Is it the way they make you feel during sex? Does it also
Well,
have to do differently with the different periods of when you're dating the narcissist? So
well, if we focus on sexual activity,
okay,
okay, so sexual activity would cover, for instance, sexting somebody or sending them nudes or asking for nudes or engaging in mutual masturbation over Skype, as used to be, or over Zoom or such like, or actually physically having sex together. So I'm not talking about going out on a nice date and having an interesting conversation about different artists. That's not sexual. Okay, although
okay,
you're dating, but that's not actually sexual. So if we
okay,
confine it to sexual behavior and activity, the fact is that non-narcissists engage in sexual activity for a variety of reasons. For instance, it's enjoyable, it's fun, it's exciting, it feels good, it makes them feel close to that person, it makes them feel loved, it allows them to express love. Those are the reasons there. For the narcissist, it's not about love because the narcissist cannot love. The narcissist has no emotional empathy. By having sex with you, so let's take, for instance, that a narcissist is having consensual sexual intercourse with another person.
okay,
The fact that that person is having sex with them is demonstrating that they are under control because they've agreed to engage in that act with them. Their responses to what the narcissist is doing with their fingers, with their mouth, with their relevant sexual organ, their response is providing fuel. That's what the narcissist subconsciously is requiring, that control and that fuel. And it also happens, as I mentioned earlier on, to feel good as well. But that's not the main driver of it. So for some people, the main driver, if they're not narcissists, the main driver of them having sex is that it feels really good. For other
Mhm.
people, it feels really good, but also they crave that intimacy, that closeness with somebody. For other people, it's a way of feeling valued and to express their love for that individual. Those latter things aren't applicable to the narcissist. The narcissist may look like they are expressing their love for you, but because the narcissist has no emotional empathy, it's impossible for the narcissist to do that. So sex is commandeered by the narcissist for the narcissist's own purposes, which are the pursuit of the prime aims. And therefore, the individual who's having sex with the narcissist is highly unlikely to realize why the narcissist is having sex with them. They will think it's because the narcissist likes them or loves them or fancies them, or in some instances, it's simply because they've paid money and they want to get their rocks off. They will not know that the narcissist is doing this because it's a means of controlling that individual. Because remember, when a human being comes up on the narcissist's radar, the law of narcissism is all appliances, people, must be controlled and kept under control at all times. So a person comes up on the narcissist radar, that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to have sex with them as a means of controlling them. Indeed, that might not be feasible for a variety of reasons. But let's take the instance of whereby the narcissist has been asserting control over that person by way of conversation. And then they continue because this need for control is on a moment by moment basis. So when they go back to one of the person's house, when they start to undress and they're kissing, the act of kissing is asserting control over that person. And the fact that the person's responded by making little moans of desire, etc., that's giving the narcissist fuel. So even at the outset of the sexual interaction, when they're kissing, that is asserting control and drawing fuel. It's not because the narcissist really likes that person or is in love with that person or fancies that person, although the narcissist who is unaware will be thinking in such terms because the narcissism makes the narcissist believe that to drive them to use the sex to control and to draw fuel.
Okay. So oftentimes you said that the narcissist views people as appliances that
Mhm.
needs to be under control. But to someone who is an unaware narcissist, when he's having sex, what is he thinking? He's thinking he's liking the person, he's connecting. Does he not realize what he's actually doing or how he's actually viewing the person as an object?
It will vary dependent upon the method that the narcissism is utilizing. So, for instance, it may compel the narcissist to be sexually attracted to that individual to cause them to want to have sex with them for the purposes of the assertion of control and to draw fuel. In other instances, it will cause, let's say, in a relationship, for the narcissist to think that I'm in love with this person and I adore them and I'm expressing my love for them through this. They put the old Barry White on with their, shagging tape, and they're there giving it the big licks. And they believe it's because, they're all sensual and loving, etc. That's what the narcissism chooses. In other instances, the narcissist may well just be focusing on how good it feels for them and ignoring what the sensation might be, as long as they're giving some kind of noise by way of response, but they're focused on their own enjoyment. In some instances, it can come across as mechanical because the narcissist is asserting control and drawing fuel and isn't thinking anything in terms of, oh, I love this person or I think they're wonderful. Indeed, there will be instances where victims of a narcissist will see that the narcissist almost seems like they're somewhere else because, in fact, they are. They look like they're zoned out. They go into an automatic gear of having sex with that person in order to continue to control them and draw them. And they're not actually thinking anything at the time. They're simply acting in an instinctive way, touching here, licking there, pressing there, moving in this fashion in order to get what's required. And it's like a machine that's having sex with you. The machine isn't thinking about you, isn't thinking
Mhm.
about anything. It's just doing because it's doing what it's doing to have that control, and it's doing what it's doing to get the fuel.
So, with the different types of narcissists and the different cadres, they're going to act a little bit different. Their behavior in the bedroom is not going to be the same. So,
Mm,
if you're able to, like, maybe briefly describe, the basic school of a narcissist and maybe how a different one would act in the bedroom. Like, if you're with a cerebral, how would a cerebral narcissist behave in the bedroom? Because I know some narcissists are very performative. So,
mm.
how would a cerebral, or whichever one you want to pick, how would they act differently in the bedroom versus maybe an elite narcissist?
Well, there are lots of different permutations based upon school and cadre. So, for instance, if you had an upper lesser type A narcissist, the affable arsehole, and they are somatic, then let's take that individual is male. Then they will behave like the dog with the proverbial six dicks. They will be hammering away, and they've probably had a lot of experience, so they'll know what they're doing. And a lot of it, though, for them would be wanting to say, look at me, I'm flexing my muscles. Don't I look really great? You're loving this, aren't you? Ooh, tell me you're loving it. And it will, for that individual, if they just want somebody basically to give them a good seeing to, that might work for them. But if they're looking for more, they might well be thinking, this guy's rather full of himself. Listen to him, he's almost like talking through everything that's going on rather than really focusing on what's happening. It's like, oh, you love this, don't you? You like it when I do that, don't you? Call me daddy, etc. And it'll be very sort of blatant in your face exposure of how he thinks that he's brilliant. This is really good, isn't it? I'm the best. I'd say that I'm the best, etc. You would get, for instance, with an upper mid-range somatic, they would exhibit far more charm. And dependent, of course, where you are in relation to whether you're being treated to idealization or devaluation plays a part as well. But if we stick with it being benign and you're being idealized, you're more likely to get a more professional performance from the upper mid-range narcissist who's going to be charming, paying greater attention to your responses and needs. So, for instance, will recognize that if you respond in a particular way, which they recognize as showing that you are really enjoying it, they'll do that all the more. So they're going to be more responsive to what you require. You might get, for instance, a mid-range type A who is a victim narcissist, who holds themselves out as being a really lovely person, but they'll be, oh, I'm a bit nervous about all of this, you take the lead, etc. And therefore they may be more submissive. And they may keep asking, is that all right? Do you like that, etc. So they will come across as less confident. But that performance of saying, are you okay? Are you enjoying yourself? Or that wasn't too much, etc., is the narcissism testing for control. And of course, the responses of, no, that's fine, keep doing that, allows the narcissism to know that it's gaining control, it has control, and it's fueled by way of a response. So you're going to get a vast range of differing responses. Some narcissists would come across as rather incompetent because they are just focused on what they can get out of it. I often explain that essentially the narcissist masturbates with your body. So they're not, as long as you're making a noise, then that's providing them with fuel. With some narcissists, it might not be as focused on the fuel and just about control. So pinning you down, let's say it's male on female, so that the
Mhm.
narcissist is pinning you down in order to assert control over you, and it feels good for him, so he's getting the residual benefit. He's not particularly bothered about the fuel. He might already be well fueled and therefore isn't really bothered about pleasing you, just so long as he gets to the point of orgasm and then rolls off and then falls asleep. And he's attained the control. He's got the residual benefit. He was well fueled from earlier on. End of story. You may have another narcissist that will take a very long time in terms of the foreplay because they're putting on a virtuoso performance, that it matters to them that you are really enjoying yourself. And they're like a puppeteer. They take pride, like some kind of craftsman or craftswoman, in their performance, that they're adjusting it here and pulling a string here and tweaking that there. And that they are like conducting a symphony in relation to utilizing you. But again, it's self-absorbed because it's all about their needs. So you will have some narcissists who are very attentive, but it's
Hmm.
only because it benefits them. Others will be sort of, two pumps and a dump and away they go because it's about their needs. You'll have others that'll play in a vulnerable way, always checking that you're okay, seemingly sensitive, but again, it's just about their needs. You'll have others whereby you get the whole sort of pole dancing in the bedroom and the howling at the moon and making a lot of noise so your roommates can hear what's going on, etc. So it's not just a performance for you, but it's a performance for the neighborhood. But remember, in all of those differences, the common theme is it's all about what the narcissist needs, not what you need. What you get is only given because it benefits the narcissist ultimately.
Okay. So when you're dating a narcissist, there's the golden period, and then you start going into the devaluation period. So when you're in the golden period, is this when the narcissist, depending on their cadre, is putting on the best performance of, love bombing? I'm so romantic. I want to run my fingers down your back. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to make sure that, I please you. You come first type of thing. But ultimately, during the period of your relationship, the behavior in the bedroom is going to start to mirror kind of the behavior out of the bedroom. So when you're in the golden period, most narcissists, they're putting on that performance, right? Of love bombing. It kind of goes in with the romantic seduction. But when do they start changing their behavior in the bedroom? And when people should start paying attention to the warning signs that, they might be with a narcissist?
Well, it depends on the dynamic. So if we just focus on the dynamic between a narcissist and the intimate partner primary source, because there are different dynamics where the extent of the devaluation varies considerably. What you're obviously thinking of is the situation between a narcissist and their spouse, their partner, their boyfriend, their girlfriend. So they're the intimate partner primary source. So in those circumstances, that individual is likely to have been on the receiving end of love bombing in order to bring them under control during the golden period. When that happened, they were a secondary source. They have then become embedded as the primary source of the narcissist, the main source for the provision of fuel, character traits, and residual benefits, and the person that's easiest to control. So they tick all of those boxes. When embedded as the intimate partner primary source, they are still in the golden period. Then they will, because this always happens, enter the sustained devaluation. Now, during that golden period, or maybe a bronze period, if you're dealing with a lesser narcissist, you aren't mistreated. You might get all of the supersonic sex that blows your mind and ultimately can prove very addictive. You may get very loving sex that feels warm and close and intimate, but that's just part of a veneer that the narcissist is demonstrating. Or you may just get a good time. It's not especially loving, but you're not being mistreated. But then along comes the sustained devaluation. And the most common way that devaluation manifests sexually is it stops. The narcissist withdraws from having sex with you. So you might have found yourself experiencing sex with somebody who's swinging from the chandelier. They're wanting it 3-4 times a day. It's mind blowing. And then all of a sudden, the tap is turned off. So there you are enjoying it. And it's like you've been thrown from the tallest tower down into the deepest ditch. And all of a sudden, they're turned back on you in the bedroom, or even going and sleeping in the spare room, or the protestation, no, I don't feel like it, the usual, oh, I've got a headache, etc., I'm too tired. And that person who naturally often brings together sex with intimacy and love feels very frozen out. And in effect, that withdrawal is a form of sexual silent treatment, and it's hugely powerful. Many narcissists go to that because you're being devalued, you've been painted black. So the narcissism decides you are not getting the good stuff anymore. And because the narcissism likes efficiency, rather than necessarily utilize time and energy being horrible to you actively, the narcissist is awful to you simply by withdrawing all of the good stuff, because that's really easy to do. And the result is you're mystified. Why don't they want to have sex with me any longer? What have I done wrong? Are they seeing somebody else? Why aren't they interested in me anymore? And because, as I mentioned, many victims entwine sex with intimacy and love, it's not just missing out on screaming orgasms and all that jazz, but it's missing out on that supposed warmth and intimacy. So it takes you from a place of feeling hugely desired, worshipped sexually, into a very cold and barren place. And thus, that's what many people will find, that there is that sexual withdrawal. In other instances, the narcissist might conduct an affair. Some will
Mhm.
do it without wanting to get found out. Others might actually admit that they are and say, oh, I don't bother with you. You've let yourself go, even though you haven't. But that's the twisting of the image that occurs with the narcissist. And no, they will freely say. They'll start triangulating by commenting about the sexual attractiveness of their colleagues or the lady working in the ice cream parlor or such like. And they might even start having an affair and rub your nose in it.
Is
Then
this where the manipulation also happens, where they start changing the way they treat you in bed, the behavior? Instead of being the nice sweet person, now they're going to start pushing boundaries. Like, if you really loved me, you would engage in this act. If you really loved me, you would start watching porn. If you really loved me, you would do this certain act that you normally wouldn't do. Is this when they
yeah.
start the manipulation?
Well, remember, any interaction between a narcissist and the victim is a manipulation, even where it has a pleasant outcome for you. You're still being manipulated because it's all about the narcissist's needs. When you're in devaluation, the nature of the manipulation becomes one where it's malign. It has an unpleasant outcome for you. So, as mentioned, that could be by virtue of withdrawing sex from you. In other instances, it might then start to engage in making you feel guilty or obligated or emotional blackmail. I want you to do this. I don't like doing that. Well, if, as you've just pointed out, if you love me, you would. Or, well, Tabitha used to do this for me, triangulation. And the X is brought up. Tabitha may have done it. She may not have done it. It might be a revision of history. But you are being triangulated by that narcissist in order to compel you to do something, because the narcissist now has no interest in being nice to you, because you are
Mhm.
now painted black and you're viewed as a malfunctioning and traitorous appliance. In some instances, it will move into causing you to have to do things that you find sexually unpleasant. In some
Mhm.
instances, it will move into the realms of sexual assault.
Right, that tends to be kind of a theme with the narcissist, is they need to have that control, and a
Mm,
lot of sexual impulsiveness kind of goes hand in hand with the narcissist. Now, you're also a hybrid. You're a narcissist and a
mm,
psychopath. Now, and a lot of sexual impulsiveness, the need for control, the thrill seeking to hide from the boredom is off the charts with a psychopath. So now that you are an elite a narcissist and a psychopath, do you find, is there one that drives you more in the bedroom? Is it more of your psychopath side or narcissist side? And what is the difference between the psychopath and the narcissist, or are they just similar in how they treat sex?
Well, both use it as a form of control. The narcissist utilizes it for the receipt of fuel. A psychopath doesn't. Fuel isn't necessary. There is the residual benefit for the narcissist. For the psychopath, sex is a means of accumulation. So, accumulating a lot of sexual partners, having those notches on the bedpost, that is part of the accumulation of people. Narcissists engage in, I beg your pardon, psychopaths engage in accumulation because it's part of the necessary triad, because it's never enough. There's no end game to it. It's accumulate, as in accumulate possessions, accumulate money, accumulate homes, cars, sexual partners. It also provides stimulation. And that stimulation for the psychopath isn't just in terms of the sensation for the narcissist, it's actually for the psychopath. It's more about the stimulation in terms of finding it exciting and interesting. So, how will this person respond if I do this to them? I wonder what will happen if I do that to them. Oh, they've never responded like that before. That's interesting. How far can I push this, etc.? So with the psychopath, It's more of a cold clinical exercise, almost like conducting an experiment with that individual, where under the cold light of scrutiny, the psychopath engages in looking at this individual and uses sex to control them, accumulates them as another sexual conquest, but particularly so from almost a quizzical stance of, I want this to interest me. And sex is a particular stimulant for the psychopath. Now, again, not all psychopaths will necessarily be driven by having sex, but many are. And the impulsivity that can occur with certain psychopaths means that they will engage in risky sex, perhaps in scenarios where they are uh, having sex outdoors where they might be caught. They might be having sex in places where it would outrage public decency. There might be the impulsivity of seeing somebody and deciding they want to have sex with them, irrespective of whether that person wants to consent or not. And the psychopath utilizes that person as the object that they are seen as a means of providing that stimulation. And that's something that's particularly prevalent for the psychopath.
And is that where a lot of the BDSM comes into play? Is kind of the control, as where is a little bit of a sadism need for thrill comes in with the psychopath?
So again, with BDSM, that you have a psychopath that will be dominant, then in those instances, what they will do is utilize the various methods of BDSM as a way of asserting control over that individual. There will often be sadism involved because the sadistic behavior also provides stimulation by virtue of prompting a reaction and a response from that individual, which stimulates the psychopath. There is no emotional empathy, of course, for the other person, and therefore the danger that exists for an individual that becomes involved with the psychopath is that ordinarily people will look to utilize safe words, but a psychopath is not necessarily going to be bound by them. And therefore, if you enter into a submissive dynamic with the psychopath, it could have particularly dire consequences for you.
Okay, so we're going to dive a little bit into you and your background. So, were you someone who started young with girls? Were you interested in girls early on? Did you have a fascination with women? Did you get into making out with girls at a young age?
Absolutely. Girls always held a fascination for me from a young age. And I was always drawn to them in terms of finding them interesting because they were different. And naturally, as you start to get older, there are certain physical differences that occur that become interesting. And my inquisitiveness, which is a natural consequence of my intelligence and my need to control people by finding out about them, caused me want to learn more about them. And I can remember from a very young age kissing girls at my school under the coats in the playground. There used to be something that was called the love corner, which was a distant part of the playground, across the tarmac and across a grassed area far from the school, where you would go, and in that corner, which gained the nickname the love corner, which was where you'd go for a snog at an early age. But I soon then started moving into more physical aspects of exploring the girls that I went with. So yes, it was from a very young age. And then there is, of course, the aspect of the fact that I was sexually experienced as a consequence of being on the receiving end of sexual abuse. But as I've
Mhm.
mentioned previously, I'm not going to talk about that in the
Mhm.
context of this conversation because that's something separate. And so I'm just going to talk about my sexual experiences where I chose to have them rather than being forced upon me.
Yes, yes.
So with those girls at school, naturally, I regarded them as attractive. I was drawn to them at that early age. And as a consequence of that, I wanted to possess them. I wanted to find out what it felt like and how they'd respond when I was kissing them. And the sensation was pleasurable. and I relished the noises that they made. And I also, because I wanted to make them mine, but also it was a case of I'd had one, I wanted to have another one, and then another one. And one of the advantages, of course, when you're at school, is there's a class of all of these girls of your age, the year below, the year above. So it's happy hunting grounds.
Oh, okay. Um, let's see. Gilly wants to know how young. I'm assuming kissing or maybe sex. Like, do you remember the first time that you actually, went all the way? I guess. Are we allowed to learn that? Were you in your teens with a girl that you chose,
I recall kissing somebody, and I don't just mean sort of, puckering up, like
like a French kiss?
where your granny kisses you, that kind of thing. I remember that's around about the age of 7. I
Oh wow!
yeah, I remember the first time that I fingered a girl.
Oh my goodness!
I was 11.
Oh my God! Really? Was she 11 as well?
No, she was a year younger.
Oh my God! That's really young. Okay, okay. I think I was playing at Barbie's till I was 18. Okay, so you were
Oh,
very inquisitive, I should say. I remember you talked about when you were at school, you stole a key to a room where you would use it to make out with girls, and you would give the key to your friends, and they would go make out with girls. So you started very young. You were very interested in the opposite sex, and
absolutely.
so
Yeah,
okay.
realistically, there has never been a time when I've not been interested in the opposite sex. I mean, the instance that you're talking about where I had the key to certain stock rooms was when I was 15. And so between that time and when I was younger, by that stage, everything had happened. And that I'd had a considerable number of girlfriends and a considerable number of sexual experiences with those individuals. It wasn't difficult. I was a good looking boy that was
Mhm.
charming and fun to be around. And remember, lots of young people do have
Oh, yeah.
sexual exploration around that age. But it was certainly, I recall, for instance, in my friendship group, where, 2 of my friends, they'd never been with a girl. And this was sort of around about the age of 13, 14. They hadn't at
Mhm.
that stage. And I remember on a bus journey when I was 12 years old, basically describing many of the sexual experiences that I'd had, not in a boastful way, but simply as a matter of fact of this is what has happened. Because I was stimulated by the fact that my friendship group at that time were fascinated to hear about all of this. So I was just explaining that what I'd done and what it felt like and so forth. And I can still picture now in my mind's eye them listening with rapt attention at the front of a double-decker bus as we journeyed home. And they were listening to me explaining what had gone on. It was like, oh, so what did that feel like? And how did you do that, etc. And therefore, being able to talk about what I had done with these girls provided a further form of stimulation and naturally fuel from my friends who were non-intimate secondary sources in my fuel matrix, because they were eager, because they'd never bothered. They might have
Well,
perhaps
at
sexually thought
12, that's so
they'd not done.
young.
Yeah, but they hadn't done anything, you see, and I had. And so to talk about that was really interesting for them because they were so sexually inexperienced.
Well, to be 12, I mean, most people aren't. And the fact that you found girls that were willing to do that. Mary
Mhm.
Jules says, did you romanticize them? Did you sweet talk? I mean, because these are, young girls. And to go all the way at that age is kind of shocking, but I guess not shocking because again, I was, in my late teens and I remember I was a senior in high school. Mom, cover your ears. And my best friend and I were the last 2 people to have lost our virginity. Everyone else
Mhm.
had already had multiple partners. We're like, what? Really? Okay. I mean, I was still playing with Barbies till I was 17, a little bit sheltered. So the fact that you were 12 and were ready, the most experienced person,
Mhm.
I guess it's not shocking, right? Because you were very hypersexualized and curious.
Mhm.
And a lot of boys are curious. Some people
Mhm.
do at a very young age. So Mary wants to know, did you romanticize the girls? Did you sweet talk them, obviously, to get
Yes, I
them to
mean,
engage?
absolutely. It was a case of that you would go out with somebody, as it was referenced, that in effect they become your girlfriend. And I can remember certain situations. There was one instance, for example, where I remember that there was a neighbor and her friend came up to me, and let's call the neighbor Catherine. And she came up to me and she said, "Oh, Catherine thinks you're really fit. She wants to kiss you." And I just said, "Okay, fine." And so I said, "Send her over." And so she did. And I said, "You want to be kissed by me?" And she looked a little bit shy and said yes. And so I stepped forward and kissed her, but kissed her properly, not just like a peck. And then she was starting to develop. So I copped a feel also, and away we went. And she was willing to do it because she wanted to explore. So in some instances, it was a case of using flattery, and many young individuals are interested in learning. And when you've got experience on your side as well, and
Mm-hmm.
that demonstrates a confidence, that is very, it's very powerful, that when you present where you know what you're doing, and you know, and remember, because as a consequence of having done it so repeatedly, I knew generally what people did. So at a young age, for example, I was an accomplished kisser. Now, a lot of boys aren't. They don't know
Yes,
how to
it's
do
true.
it. And so
Mm-hmm.
the fact that I could kiss, and what happens, of course, is you kiss a girl and she then tells her friends about it and says, "Gosh, it was really good." And so
Right.
you then start to get a reputation for it. And so then when the next person comes along, they in effect have done some of the spade work for you based on reputation. And then you'll get some that are a bit cocky and think, no, he won't be that good. And then they find out, well, actually, yes, he is. And they regard it as a bit of a challenge. So it's quite interesting, actually, because in some instances, having gained a particular reputation because people talk to one another, you don't actually have to put too much hard work in. Your reputation precedes you, either in drawing people to you because they're basically saying, "I want to sample these goods," or others that are saying, "Nah, I want to find out if he's all that." And so it's the challenge, and that also draws them to you.
That's interesting. So at a young age, you got the reputation of being the guy who's a great kisser, and so all the friends would send the girls to you to test you out.
Well, in effect, I mean, it wasn't everybody, but what it meant was that there was an increased level of curiosity about it. And remember,
Right.
what I also have to bear in mind is that when I was at school, I was a polite and studious pupil who occasionally would get into trouble as a consequence of what they referred to as impertinence, whereas I was just speaking my mind and correcting them. But a lot of the errant behavior that I engaged in, I did away from school. So I had a reputation at school of being a bit of a model pupil. And therefore, to some, when they hear about, oh, he's a bit of a demon with the old tongue, etc., it increases their curiosity, because it kind of, I remember that there used to be this thing, this percentage game, where if you were at 100%, you'd never done anything with anybody. And then if you'd kissed somebody, it was at 90. And if you'd kissed them, and if you'd felt their boobs or something like, or had your boobs felt, it was 80. And then if it was a French kiss, it's down to 70. So people would go around, "What's your percentage," etc. And I remember telling somebody mine was really low because of all of this extra experience I had. And she was like, "No, I don't believe you." And I said, "Well, meet me at this point after school and I'll show you." And of course, gauntlet thrown down, she accepted, and she realized, yes, I wasn't lying, because I could demonstrate, because I was practiced. And remember also that this is with girls who are around my age at school, that often they end up going with older boys who
Uh-huh.
have a bit more experience. So let's say I'm 13 years old. There's 13-year-old girls at school who might have got a boyfriend who's 15 or 16. So he's got a bit more practice. And so when they then come along with a 13-year-old like me, they've had some experience from an older boy. And then they realize, I know what I'm doing, but I'm at the same age, which often,
Mhm.
I wouldn't say necessarily shocked them, but was a surprise to them.
Did you ever get older girls?
Yes.
Okay, because they heard about you, and so they were obviously a little bit more open to it because they were a couple of years older. I remember when I
Well, the
was
childminders were a target for me.
what was?
My childminders. So because I had a younger brother and sister, so when my parents weren't there, there would be, for instance, a colleague of my father's daughter who might be sort of 4 or 5 years older. And so when my brother and sister had gone to bed, my game was to see if I could kiss them and go further with my childminder.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. Revealing says, at HD, this might be intrusive question, so please ignore if unwelcome. But do you think your childhood experience impacted the age at which you became active?
So presumably referring to the fact that I was sexually abused, did that
Mhm.
impact I became active? Well, without wanting to sound dismissive, naturally it did, because the fact that I was sexually abused meant that I was active, wasn't I? Because I was involved in sexual activity, albeit I didn't choose it.
Mhm.
Did it impact then upon what I chose to do? I imagine that the fact that I knew about it and I knew the terminology and I knew what it meant and I knew what to do must have had an impact, I would imagine, that enabled me to do what I did.
Okay. Um, Laura says, were there any girls at school that you wanted to experiment with, but you were turned down?
Yes, there were some instances where there were some girls that weren't interested.
Okay. Or maybe they just weren't ready, because it was still kind of young.
Mhm.
Um,
Quite
it-
possibly. And in those circumstances, it might be, for instance, there'd be somebody that I might see in the class that I would think, I wonder how she would respond. I wonder what she's like at kissing. I wonder what she looks like without her clothes on, that kind of thing. And an
did you
approach
ever? Yeah. Go ahead.
and an approach might be made, and in the circumstances, would they would respond in an unenthusiastic fashion. And so in that instance, there was a choice of either, do I make them mine anyway, or do I just dismiss it and move on to the next one?
How do you make them yours if they say no?
Pardon?
How do you make somebody yours if they say no?
Well, then you take hold of them, don't you?
Oh, okay.
So you,
Uh,
you, you force yourself upon them.
oh no. Okay. Um, so my other question to you, someone said it's not sexual enough. We're getting there. We're getting to the spicy stuff. You got to build up for it. Did you ever make out with somebody's mom?
Did I ever make out with somebody's mum?
Like, when you were in high school, like one of your friends
Well, like Stifler's mum, that kind of thing.
or a teacher. Someone asked if you had ever made out with a teacher. I'm assuming probably not.
No, I didn't make out with a teacher. Of course, there were teachers that I regarded as attractive, but that didn't happen. And in relation to somebody's mother, no, that didn't happen.
Okay. So we found out that you were very curious with young girls at a young age. You were very experienced. You got a lot of experience there. So when did you learn about yourself that you needed to have control in the bedroom? When did that become a thing with your girlfriends?
I would imagine that was during my teens. Again, with these things, there isn't a sudden road to Damascus moment where you suddenly think, aha, I need control. I think it's more when you look back on it and realize that around that time, so for instance, that it would be a case of, let's say that there was someone being resistant to your overtures and
Mhm.
that I didn't like that. I didn't uh, accept that that person didn't want that. And so what you do is you'd lay on the persuasion and you'd lay on the charm and you'd say, come on, just try it. I guarantee you'll like it, to bring them around to your way of thinking. And so I recall instances of that occurring. So when I look back on that, which was when I was around about a teenager, that will have been when I was recognizing that there was a necessity of control. At the time, I wouldn't have thought to myself, oh, because this person doesn't want to do this particular thing, that's offending my need for control. It's
Mhm.
rather the case of me looking at that retrospectively and realizing, that's what it was. there was that need for control, because it wasn't a case of going, oh, all right, then, fair enough, we'll leave it. I needed to conquer that person. I needed to make them bend to my will. And invariably, it was done as a consequence of being charming and just applying that pressure of, you'll like it, I guarantee it, I've done it before, you will like it, etc. And it proved to be correct.
KR says, HD, do you treat girls differently based on their looks?
Naturally.
Okay. Okay, someone has a question, a sexy question. I do have sexy questions for him. Oh, okay. Royalty House. They're beating me to the punch, HG. Royalty House says, what age was he when he had his first threesome?
I was 18, and it was with two of my female friends when we were on holiday. There was a big group of us all went on a holiday, and as a consequence of that marvelous social lubricant, alcohol, and the freedom of being away from the home environment and people being interested in experimentation, so I was 18 years old.
Okay, so was it awkward after, or did the girls just kind of, we're still friends
Oh,
type
there
of
was no
thing?
awkward afterwards. A great time was had by all.
Oh, okay. Did you make any of them your girlfriend?
One had been my girlfriend previously, so that made it easier to get her buy-in. And the other girl, she didn't become my girlfriend, but was certainly very much up for it.
So you said one of them became your girlfriend or was your girlfriend?
One had been my girlfriend previously.
And she still wanted to have sex with you after? So
Yes.
you ended on a good note, I guess. Are you
Yeah.
friends with any of your exes?
What now?
Yeah.
There are exes of mine that if I were to contact them, they would talk to me, or if I would happen to meet them on the street, they would chat along with me. There are ones which I do still have a degree of contact with that regard me well. So yeah.
Okay. KR says, HD, have you ever felt like you had a genuine, loving sexual connection with anybody?
I've never had a genuine loving connection with anybody because I'm incapable of that. So I've always known that when I was interested in people, I was always very contemptuous of this idea of love. I regarded it as a weak thing, a soppy thing, a silly thing.
Hmm.
And to my mind, it was more about wanting the person because I found it interesting being with them. So that might be because I liked what they talked about, or I found them physically attractive and that interested me, or that I thought about, yeah, I want to kiss those full lips. I wonder what her breasts are like. I wonder what she's like when she's bent over, how pert her bottom is. Things such as that. So it was almost the curiosity about them that drove it, not any kind of love. It was wanting to know, what would this person be like when they become mine, when I conquer them, when I collect them. In terms of a sexual connection, I think it would be fair to say that there are individuals where there might well have been a meeting of sexual need and desire. I don't connect to people because of the absence of my emotional empathy. I connect them to me. But there are individuals where the level of stimulation that they provided to me was greater than others. So if you were, in the broadest of senses, going to talk about a form of sexual connection, you would say, I suppose one way of describing it would be to say they cater to my needs better than somebody else. So if I was to use other people's language, it would be to say, yeah, there was a better connection with them than anyone else. But be under no illusion, I don't connect to anybody. I just connect
Hmm.
them to me. That's why I'm able to pick people up and then throw them away so easily.
Are you a generous lover in bed?
It depends on the circumstances. So if I want to make you mine, I know that the most appropriate way is to be very giving, and I'm particularly skilled in that regard, not had
Hmm.
any complaints in that respect. If I want to be selfish because you have annoyed me, because if I see you as painted black, then I will be a selfish lover. So it depends on the circumstances. But where you're painted white, one of the most effective ways to get that person under control is to be giving and generous and recognize. Because I've talked about this in terms of what I do professionally, whereby I have this ability to absorb a lot of information about my environment to make appropriate decisions, which basically preserve my well-being and safeguard my status as a living individual. That also applies in the sexual arena. So I'm able to absorb the way that somebody is looking, the way that they are breathing, the heat that's emanating from them, the way that they're positioning themselves, the noises that they are making, to know that's working, no, that's not working, do this, don't do that, continue with doing that. So I'm actually very attentive in that respect, naturally, not because I care, but because I'm into it for what it's giving me. That it's a game to me. A person presents
Mhm.
almost like a puzzle. So you remember the Rubik's Cube that was all the
Mhm.
rage years ago.
Right.
So a sexual partner comes to me all scrambled up like that Rubik's Cube. And what I
Mhm.
want to do is complete it. So I want to find out what makes them tick. I want to make them find out what really gets them going. Because with some people, it's harder than others. I remember one particular girlfriend, she was really hard to cause her to orgasm. And so achieving that was part of the necessity of gaining that control over her, of working the way through the puzzle to get to that point, because it's about providing the stimulation. That's what matters to me.
Did you like the challenge of trying to make her finish?
At first, and then after a while, it became a chore and I lost interest.
Ah, okay. So when did you discover the tying up of somebody? Like, because you said that you have a certain knot that you do and you view tying someone up as art. When
Mm.
did that was that more like in your 20s that you decided, oh, I really like this kinky part of tying a woman up and really having control over them? You mentioned that you really like that when they have to submit to you fully.
Yes. Yes. So it's part of the submission. I can't really go into the detail of it because it's linked to
Okay.
what happened to me when I was a young boy.
Oh, okay, okay,
So
okay. So it's the need for control over your environment, the why you need to tie them up type of thing. Um,
yes,
now,
I mean, it's not the case that that happens with every single person that I go to bed with, but it is a part of something where there's a skill to it. And therefore, again, that's part of the stimulation. First of all, to ascertain, will this person want to go along with doing that? And
mhm,
the skill of getting them. And many people, they have a curiosity about it. Some of them are
mhm,
very much up for it, others are a bit apprehensive. And
mhm,
therefore, that presents a challenge that one welcomes to persuade them to engage with it. You see, it's easy if you want to take somebody by force, it's easy because
mhm,
being physically powerful, you can do that. It's much more satisfying and sophisticated to get that person to agree to what you want to do by way of the subtle application of pressure. That's the stimulation. That's what matters. Any Neanderthal can bop somebody over the head, tie them up, and take them away and assault
mhm,
them. That's beginner's nonsense. Instead, what matters is the ability to be able to get that person to say yes, that they buy into it. And where there is that initial resistance, that you erode it by way of a skillful application. That's what's interesting. That's what's stimulating. That's what gets the juices going for me.
So almost the breaking of the will to what is it? Coercion is what you like. It's the submitting to your will. It's the what do you call it? What do you call it? Volunteer. Okay, you won, HD. I'm going to do what you want me to do. That's the part you want because you don't want to force it, but you do the manipulation to kind of break down their barriers. Laura Cox says, when you conquer a person sexually, is it the case that once conquered, the stimulation, aspect begins to wane? Is there greater stimulation during the chase?
Well, it can be like a series of different stages of climbing a mountain. So, for instance, there is initially bringing that person into my world by way of them having sexual interest in me. So that, you might say, is challenge one. Then the next challenge is to take them to bed. And then the next challenge might be, for instance, to cause them to have anal sex. The next challenge might be, for instance, to involve them in bondage. So in some instances, it might be that I find the person not particularly receptive, that they were easy to conquer, and that I don't find that individual particularly stimulating, so they get pushed to one side. Then there are other individuals whereby their response to what's happening is stimulating, so that holds my interest for a period of time. And then it becomes, right, so I've achieved this with them. Let's see if I can take it to the next stage and then push it further and push it further and push it further. So I keep climbing higher up the mountain. So that it's a form of chase in itself, chasing them to different activities. And therefore that maintains the interest, that maintains the stimulation.
So you mentioned before that you like to get into bed quickly with somebody, but doesn't that kind of ruin the buildup and the chase? Don't men like to pursue? Like if you have sex with someone on the first night, doesn't it kind of go down after that because you've already experienced them after the first date? Don't you
Well,
like to
again,
build up anticipation?
it depends. There are certain scenarios where I think to myself, I will bring this person in, I want to have sex with them, it'll provide me with fuel, it'll provide me with some stimulation. Right, that's all that I need out of that individual, and then they are put to one side. But with others, as I just mentioned, there's a whole smorgasbord of things that one can do with them. And therefore, they remember, from the perspective of either narcissist or psychopath, but particularly from that of psychopath, they're a plaything. They're part of the game. They're
Mm-hmm.
there to be utilized in that respect. And there are so many different permutations that exist in terms of what you might do with that person, how they might react to it, their degree of resistance to it, the degree of persuasion that's required. Some people are boring, and therefore I get rid of them because they're not providing me the level of interest. Others, they are that Rubik's Cube, and I want to solve the Rubik's Cube. So
Well, what if
consequently,
someone is super attractive, super interesting, intelligent, funny, you love talking to them, but the sex is vanilla and they just want to, bend me over the counter for 10 minutes before we make dinner, which could be fun, but they don't want to be tied up. They don't want to do anything, you know, that's going to like push the boundaries. It's always the same three positions. Is that something that's going to make them be pushed to the side because they're not willing to engage in the impulsive BDSM that you may or may not want, but they
well,
have all the other
therein
acts of
lies the
sex?
challenge, that if somebody is that way, now
Mhm,
remember that in some instances, it depends on where they fit into the fuel matrix. So it might be that there's an individual that provides the stimulation through excellent conversation,
mhm,
and that they are interesting to be around because of perhaps what they do for a living and the information that they have, etc. So they can provide stimulation without necessarily the utilization of sex. Okay, so they may not be a girlfriend, they are a friend. And it might be, of course, that I decide I want to know what they're like sexually, and I find out actually they're not that interesting, but they still serve a purpose to me because they're interesting in other aspects. So they don't become my girlfriend, they just
mhm.
become somebody that I've had sex with, who I remain friends with.
But what if it's your IPPS? Like, what if it's the girl that you're like, okay, this is going to be my main girlfriend. She's everything I've ever wanted. You're dating, you finally have sex. The sex is enjoyable, but it's
Mhm.
vanilla and she won't push the boundaries. So, is that going to push her into devaluation because she's no longer giving you that stimulation or heighten the
No,
sex? Or
because
are you happy with vanilla sex?
because ultimately she'll be persuaded.
She'll
They
be
don't they don't
persuaded.
stay they don't stay vanilla.
They don't stay vanilla. Okay. So,
The
what
many
happens?
people
Yeah. Hmm.
although they might think to themselves, "Oh, I wouldn't want to do that." When you're with somebody who knows what they're doing
Hmm.
and is persuasive about it, they find themselves opening up like that flower and embracing things that they didn't think that they would ever like. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
not talking about causing somebody, to stand in a diaper while I shit on them from above, because that's just
Oh god.
depraved. I'm not interested in
Right.
that kind of nonsense. But
Right.
other activity that they might at first be hesitant or balk at, well, it's a case of, with the right persuasion and explain. Some people, they might have tried it once and they've done it with a buffoon who didn't do it properly. So no
Right.
wonder they don't want to. And the
Mhm.
point is to say, well, let me explain, let me show you, we'll take it like this stage and so forth. And utilizing that persuasion, and they realize, actually, if you think about it, how is it that somebody actually ends up knowing that they enjoy something sexually? You
Until they
try it,
try it.
don't you? Okay. So if you try, so let's say, for example, you've never eaten a particular type of food, and the first time you have it is when you're on a really rough sea crossing, when you're feeling green to the gills. Then your experience of that food wasn't particularly good because you felt really grim and you threw up outside. So you might say, let's just say, for example, it's rhubarb pie. Oh, I don't ever want to eat rhubarb pie again. Well, the point then would be to say, yeah, but you ate that when you were on a really rough sea crossing and you weren't feeling particularly well. Oh, just the
Mhm.
thought of it makes me want to barf. No, honestly, you've never tried a rhubarb pie like this rhubarb pie. Just trust me on this. I guarantee, just all you have to do is just take this little morsel. Just, I'm not asking you to eat the whole slice, the whole pie, just this little morsel. And I guarantee to you, it'll
Mhm.
taste delicious. And so they eventually do. And they go, actually, that's not bad, is it? Told you. Now try a bit more. And it's that salami slicing that one does. And you can do that with somebody sexually.
What happens if you convince them to try it, they try it, and they absolutely hate it, and they're like, "You know what, HG? I'm never doing that again."
It doesn't happen.
Okay, now let me ask you another question. What happens if they try to convince you to do something that you particularly don't want to do? Are you willing to try something different to see if you like it?
Yes.
Okay. So have you tried something like they say, I want to tie you up, HG, and I want to
Mhm.
control you. So you'll let them do something different. Have you ever had someone do something for you and then you discovered you like it and then you continue to do it?
No, I think in the context of most things I have initiated, there are occasions where somebody might suggest something to me and I have no interest in it. And so that's the end of that. So it's
Okay.
just not going to happen. So let's take, for example, you might get somebody who suggests that they want to involve an animal. That's just not happening because animals are dirty things.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Irrespective of the illegality and all the rest of it. That's just not going to happen. And I'm not going to be persuaded either, because that threatens my need for control and I will just cut it dead. So if some kind of deviant suggested something like that, well, that's the end of that.
Okay. Have you ever like had like a foursome, like with a man and a woman, or two, or switched couples, that type of thing?
I mean, I've attended sex parties where there's been men and women in attendance. Yes.
Okay. The Royal Tea House says, who's going to find out which outfit he likes, the maid or the nurse? I do have a French maid outfit, just saying. Okay.
Right. Okay. Well,
For the honeymoon, for the honeymoon.
one of my cleaners has gone on holiday, so
Shall I come over and dress?
I can set you to work.
Okay. Get me on my knees to do some floors. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will have to carefully supervise the work, naturally.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay. All right. So people have been begging for some spicy questions, HG. I was trying to
Okay.
ease my way in there, but are you up for some naughty 50 Shades of Grey this or that questions?
Certainly. Fire away.
Okay. Y'all asked, I shall deliver. So it's going to be either this or that. So slow undressing or clothes ripped off.
Slow undressing.
Morning sex or middle of the night sex.
Middle of the night.
Ooh, night night. Okay. Hair pulling or neck biting.
Neck biting.
Dominant or submissive.
Dominant.
Okay. Hands tied or blindfolded.
Blindfolded.
Shower sex or kitchen counter.
Kitchen counter.
You do have a big kitchen counter.
I do.
You do.
Oddly enough, one of them is shaped like a huge penis, which was not intentional, by the way. I remember looking down at it and thinking, they've installed something which looks like a monumental cock and balls. Thank you very much.
And I'm like, I know you don't do any cooking, so I know you're using it for something else. I was imagining you would have one of those ladies, those naked ladies laid out where you would eat sushi. Have you ever done that, by the way? You eat
No,
sushi
I
off of a
haven't.
lady?
I'm something of a clean freak. So I'm not particularly. I have done the old smearing someone with food, etc.
Like
But it's
whipped
not.
cream or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's a little bit trite and cliched, and I'm not particularly interested in it because I'd rather have my food on a plate rather than on a person. I'd rather eat them than the food.
Oh, okay. So we go down. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't mean it as a cannibal before anybody starts thinking that I'm Hannibal lecturing them.
so maybe for your birthday, you can have the naked lady with the sushi. Okay. Try something different, HG.
Okay, okay.
Okay. All right. That's my challenge for you. Okay.
Mhm.
So quickie or all night session
All night.
or both? All night. Oh, multiple sessions. Okay. Being in control or being taken over?
Being in control.
Teasing for hours or getting straight to it?
Teasing for hours.
Lingerie or completely naked?
Lingerie.
Oh, you like a little tease. Okay. Kissing down the body or kissing up?
Down the body.
Watching or being watched?
Being watched.
Have you ever spied on someone having sex?
Oh,
You a voyeur?
naturally. Of
You
course.
naturally. You're a little bit of a voyeur. I saw those binoculars.
Well,
Um,
find me a teenage boy that hasn't looked in on somebody getting up to some mischief.
oh, okay. Talking dirty or staying silent?
Talking dirty.
Making out against a wall or on the bed?
Against a wall.
Biting or scratching?
Biting.
Tongue or fingers?
Tongue.
Ooh, one long session or multiple rounds?
Multiple rounds.
Okay. Being the tease or being teased?
Being the tease.
Face sitting or sorry, or being sat on?
Oh, hang on a second. I'm sitting on them, am I?
I
There's
guess.
a bit of
Yeah,
ringing
face,
going.
I got these off the internet.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Face sitting or
I'm not against some rimming, but I think in the circumstances, I would prefer to be doing the eating out.
okay. Moaning their name or hearing yours?
Oh, hearing mine, I don't care for their name.
Okay. Um, dirty text or steamy voice notes?
Oh, steamy voice notes.
Okay. Soft touches in public or no holding back in private?
No holding back in private. Not big on the PDAs.
Okay. Oh, so you don't like to you do hand holding, but no like kissing and stuff like that in
Well,
public.
if I must.
Oh, if you must. Okay. If it's your IPPS, right? And she wants to hold your hand.
Well, there were certain
At
instances in the
dinner.
golden period where I would drive down my general dislike of such displays because it's for the securing of the ultimate outcome. But I'm not one for, if I'm touching you, it'll be more in a sexual arena or possibly for the purposes of stopping you sliding off a cliff. I'm not one for sort of perambulating down the high street, locked arm in arm, or holding hands. I really don't like that.
Even in the golden period.
I will do it, but I still don't like it.
Okay. Um, let's see. Going down or being gone down on,
Being gone down on.
obviously. Ice cubes or warm massage oil.
Ice cubes.
Lifting them up or being pushed down.
Pushing them down.
Okay. Undressing each other or being stripped.
Do you mean them stripping me or me stripping them?
I'm assuming. Okay, let me read that again. Undressing each other
Mhm.
or being stripped. So, I don't know what that means. We can skip that one. Slow and sensual or hard and fast. It can be a mix of both, I guess, right?
Well, it is, but you're asking me to make a choice between the two. So I'd go hard and fast.
Okay. Lights on or off?
On.
On. Okay. Someone wanted to ask, what is your favorite sexual position?
Probably taking someone whilst they're stood up, pressed against the glass, like a large glass window.
Oh, okay. So you want a little bit of a show.
Yeah, so they're pressed against the glass, and I'll hold their hands above their head with one hand gripping them by the wrists while taking them from behind them. So the advantage of that is that it's a dominating act, but also the fact is that I'm able to see their reflection in the glass, so I get the best of both worlds. So I remember there's a necessity of seeing reaction for the purposes of control and drawing of fuel as well. So,
Do you like
and
to look at your sex? Do you like to look at yourself while you're having sex? Do
I
you have
like
mirrors above your
being.
bed?
Do I what?
Do you have like mirrors above your bed? Do you like to look at yourself while
No,
you're
I don't have mirrors above my bed. It's not the 1980s. Um, there are mirrors in the room, and there are
Yeah.
instances whereby I'll utilize those in order to see myself and that person, and they're naturally an extension of me. But no,
Mhm.
not mirrored ceilings. That's cheesy.
Okay. KR says, strangest place you've had sex.
Strangest place that I've had sex. There's two that spring to mind that I can't make mention of because of professional circumstances.
Okay.
Um, One is at a funeral.
Oh my.
Mhm.
Okay.
Wasn't with the
Okay.
corpse before anybody
Okay.
jumps.
He's not into that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys, leave your questions. You said you wanted me to spice it up. We spiced it up. Um, so, what do you find most attractive in a lady? Is there quite a few things, or what do you look for?
Well, naturally, it links to the pursuit of prime aims and the necessary triad. So
Mhm,
I'm looking for an individual that is going to be someone that is controlled, and that somebody's going to provide me with fuel, and particularly important, that they will come with certain residual benefits and they'll provide stimulation. So in terms of translating that into sort of
English.
your speak, it would
Mhm,
be intelligence is important. There are some instances where there's a hard body who's got the brains of mince they'll do for the purposes of having sex with them. But if we're
mhm,
talking in terms of intimate partner primary sources, they want somebody that's intelligent, can hold a conversation, because I need that stimulation. Uh,
mhm.
if you are dull as dishwater, then I will just want to drive a rusty meat hook through your malformed cranium.
Right.
They need to be in decent shape. They need to be physically attractive. They need to be
Mhm,
clean. You need to be able to, you need to have good manners, and you need to be able to conduct yourself in a regulated fashion, because there'll be places that I would take you to where I would expect you to know how to behave, so that you do not make a show of yourself, which would reflect badly on me.
I'm not sure what she means by this. Does he like the ladies? Okay. I guess you're
Well, if we're
body
talking about
part.
if we're talking about a
Okay.
fishmonger, and then a nice bit of sea bass, if that's what we're referring to. If we're talking about a lady's genitalia and there's fish, then well, she's going to be sent home because she's unclean.
So, do we prefer a lady who's clean shaven? Is that what the going thing is now?
Yes,
Okay.
I don't really want to sort of take somebody's
From like the
panties down,
1970s.
and all of a sudden like, wow, and this sort of spong appears, where I'm having to sort of forge my way through it like an explorer in the jungle. No,
Uh-huh. Most hookups are all stainless steel nowadays. Okay. I don't know. Oh,
I think that's a
meat hooks.
reference to me
Meat
talking about
hooks. Oh,
a
gotcha.
rusty meat hook.
Okay. So, have you ever had to have sex with someone that you weren't attracted to because you wanted the prime aims and you needed them for a specific purpose?
There have been instances where it's sort of taken one for the HG team. Yeah. So
Okay.
there's been instances of gritting one's teeth and going through with it because it provided a means of bringing that person under control to get hold of information primarily.
Okay. You said before that you've been with ladies who are older. Have you dated someone who has been 10 years older than you before?
Yes.
Okay. But when you date now, do you generally date women who are younger than you? Because they're easier to control.
Well, bear in mind, it's not a case of I'm not Leonardo DiCaprio that's always like running around seeking somebody who's like 20 years old,
Right.
because that doesn't fit with what's needed in terms of stimulation.
Mhm.
Because whilst they will be hugely physically attractive, and that's fine for a bunk up if that's all that one's after, but they're not going to make intimate partner primary source material.
Mhm.
So they need to be in and around my age.
Okay. Um okay, I'm trying to read this here. I'm blind. I have an eye problem right now. Does HG have rituals before partaking, like making them shower?
Yeah, oh, of course. They take the lotion from the basket.
Okay.
Do have rituals. Yes.
Ritual.
So showering is one of those things.
Yeah, we like people who are hygienically clean. Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
absolutely. Yeah.
A biggest turnoff for me is a man who's not hygienically clean. Ugh,
Mhm,
no, yuck.
mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
Katie says, are there other ultras like you out there? Have you met any personally?
There's only one ultra. The reason that I'm the ultra, and I think sometimes people misunderstand this, is there are aware narcissists and aware psychopaths out there. There are ones that think that they're narcissists, but actually they're not, and they're just sort of edgelords, as I've mentioned previously. And then the concept of the ultra is both narcissist and psychopath that is aware of what one is, but is also conveying the information in the way that I do, with a level of insight and understanding. And there's nobody else that does it in the way that I do, which makes me in a class of one, which makes me the ultra. So that's why it is. So there are other people that are aware manipulators like I am. There are other narcissists who are particularly charming and hugely successful and are puppeteers, similar in the way that I am. They do exist, and I have met other aware narcissists and psychopaths because of what I do professionally, and certain of the circles that I move in has meant that I have had those interactions with them. So yeah, but there's only one ultra, and that's HG Tudor.
Julie says, am I around your age?
I don't know how old you are, so
Really? Yeah. I have a guesstimation of your age, but
most people put me older than I actually am because of my
yes.
voice. Yeah.
Yes. I would say, well, I think I'm older than you. I'm 54. So I'm a Gen Xer. I don't know if you're a Gen Xer, if you're a millennial. But I'd say you're probably,
I'm younger.
um,
I'm younger than you,
okay, I would say mid 40s to like late 40s.
maybe.
Yeah. Only reason why I say that is because of some of the references you've made. And you said that you were around Meghan Markle's age and she's 44, right? Is she 40?
Mhm.
Yeah, she's 44. So I'm assuming you're.
Well, it depends, isn't it? Some people say she's 47, 49. But I think generally, I think a lot of that's just mistake or supposition. But if you
Mhm.
assume that she's 44, that we're
Yeah.
in that area. Yeah.
Okay. Young whippersnapper. Okay. I wish I was 44. Good old days. Let's see here. But don't forget, we are getting married in 10 years, so I'll be like 64. So
Yes, I've diarised that. Yes.
you're sowing your wild oats now, HG, so we can have our life of happiness in the golden period with my long
Yeah,
white
yeah.
nighty and, the 3 minutes of sex before Wheel of Fortune, vanilla sex for life,
Well, yes, just using my penis on a Saturday morning. Yes,
on your
absolutely. Not,
birthday, Christmas. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Uh,
right. Yeah. All logged in. Absolutely.
Zainab says, well, for me, is climbing on bed with feet fresh out of socks or touching warm socks and not washing hands afterwards. Okay.
Is
Sounds
that
like a,
is that is that a ritual that
I guess
Zainab?
it's a ritual. Yeah.
Let me just read that. Climbing on bed with fresh. What the, do they? What the person Has to nab
I
does.
don't know.
And touching all,
Um,
not washing hands afterwards. Well, yes, I would agree with that if you're taking the socks off, if they're particularly dirty. But then it revolves around, do you take your shoes off when you enter somebody's house?
okay, this is a question I also wanted to know. Is HD a boob or an ass man?
If it was a this or that, it would be breasts.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. So, what turns you on the most about a partner in general? Like, what do you, some number one thing that you kind of like about
Well,
somebody?
again, it comes back to the point of stimulation. If
Mm,
they are stimulating me so that I find them interesting, and remember, the bar gets moved higher as I move through life because there's so many different things that I've done and so many different people that I've experienced. So
Do you like a lady who's playful and has a good personality, can make you laugh? I mean, is that important for you in a relationship? Is to be with someone who can kind of do things?
again, having a decent sense of humor is a
Hmm.
material matter because it links to stimulation.
Hmm.
And of course, I don't want someone who sits there and where I use my witty repartee on them and it goes straight over their head. You know,
Right.
that's hugely disappointing in somebody. So I like them to be able to have a sense of humor. Yes.
Okay.
Again, you've got to remember that with that there are certain factors that might not be there, but that's offset by other factors. So there can be a sort of pick and mix of them. In essence, the important thing is if you look absolutely stunning, but you are as thick as mince and boring and no sense of humor, I might knock your hip out, but that's as far as it's going to go.
Right. Same for me. I don't like men who are stupid and don't have a sense of humor. I would deal with a cute face. The body
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be perfect, but a cute face. Nice. You know what I like? I like nice teeth and hands. Don't ask me why, but I like a gentleman with nice
I generally
hands.
prefer people to have hands. I agree with you there. I'm not really into people who've been stealing in Saudi Arabia and found out to their cost that they're now no longer are able to pick their nose.
Oh, and you don't like tattoos.
No, I'm not keen on tattoos. The odd one is acceptable, but I find that if someone's heavily tattooed, I don't find that particularly appealing. Again, it goes with the necessity of having somebody that is presentable because there are situations of things that I attend where I need that plus one to reflect very well on me. And turning up looking
Right.
like tattooed Harridan is not going to work. If you've got one on your arm that's hidden under your dress, it's not such an issue. Or you might have one small of your back, archetypal tramp stamp. Then that
Hmm.
I'm not. If you have a tattoo, I'm not going to turn around and go, right, you're spoiled goods. That's it, because there may be other
Well,
matters that
because
matter.
nowadays everyone has a tattoo almost,
No, no,
right?
not everybody. Actually, there's still a high proportion of people that don't.
Oh.
Depends which circles you move in, my dear.
Well, yeah, that's true. It really depends. Like I have one on my ankle. It's tiny, and I always forget that I have it. It was a stupid mistake, but I always forget that
Uh,
it's tiny. Yeah, I always
yeah.
forget I have it. But
Well, one of the things as well is that it's useful to avoid tattoos because then a tattoo can be used to describe you,
yes,
which
exactly,
which could be a threat to control.
absolutely. The Royalty House says, has he ever had a quickie down an alleyway?
Many occasions.
Okay, because you talk about your dirty little secrets in cars and parking lots, right?
Well, the dirty little secrets. I mean, there are some instances where it would be a case of meeting them in a hotel. It would be a case of having them in a car or over the bonnet. It might be a situation meeting them at a friend's property. Part
Mhm.
of the way of keeping as a dirty little secret and quite an excellent method of control, which really gets to them, is never ever allowing them to come to where I live, or indeed even knowing where I live.
Mhm. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up in a couple of minutes. So if you have any other questions that you've always wanted to ask HE, now is the time. Now is the time to do it. Okay. This person really wants to know a lot of stuff, HG. Does he have a sex swing?
No.
You tend to keep your kinky stuff in the closet, as we talked last time.
Well, the fact is that I like my house a particular way, and I don't need
Mhm.
to have a sex dungeon. That I can
Mhm.
achieve what I require without the necessity of sex swings and such like.
Mhm.
And it's far better that one can manipulate an individual to do certain things without the necessity of going, go and sit on that.
Mm-hmm. Someone said, and I've asked you this before, does HD have OCD? Could a narcissist be OCD? Because it's a control thing, right?
Well, a lot of people misunderstand what obsessive compulsive disorder actually manifests at. They'll say things like, I have to have all of my tins of beans facing the right way. I'm a bit OCD. It isn't really about that. It's more to do with ritualistic behavior, repetitive behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and often to do with intrusive thoughts. So, for instance, you'll have individuals that have OCD where they might have intrusive thoughts about sexual activity with children. They will never act on it, but they find that rather distressing. And that's part of symptomatic. Not everybody who has OCD has that, but
Mm-hmm.
that's how it manifests with some people. I wouldn't say that I necessarily have intrusive thoughts. I have a lot of them. My mind triple tracks, as I've explained before. So there's a lot going on in my mind. I think it's more a case of I like things to be ordered. I like tidiness because that does link to the issue of control. And I see Zainab's asking, am I a germaphobe? Hygiene and cleanliness is important, but I don't have a problem with getting dirty. There
Because
are,
sex is dirty.
I beg your pardon?
Because sex is dirty. It
Well, I
can be
mean,
dirty.
more in terms of,
Generally getting dirty. Yeah.
yeah, mud and muck and filth and that kind of thing. Again, there are circumstances where I've had to considerably rough it and not being able to shower for days on end and so forth. And that's the necessity of doing what I do. But
Mm-hmm.
where there is access to that, so I'm a keen hand washer. I don't have to wash my hands 20 times a day. But for instance, if I've been out somewhere, when I come home, I wash my hands. That's the first thing that I do because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want transferring germs into my house. My health is important. And if I become unwell, it's going to stop me doing things. And so, therefore, I look out for that. And so, I firmly believe that it's important, for instance, that you get a bit of dirt in you when you're young in order to get your immune system going.
Yeah.
But it's more about. So I'm not adverse to situations where I get down and dirty amongst the mud and rolling around in the countryside and all the rest of it, and deserts and all this kind of thing, with you in amongst all of the elements. But it's more about the fact, if somebody turns up and they look unkept, then that tells me much about them. You go to somebody's house and it's a shithole, that tells me much about them. I like my houses to be clean and presentable and everything ordered, things where I know where I can find them, etc. And similarly for me, it's not the case that I, wake up first thing in the morning and immediately put on a suit and tie. I'll sit around in my sloppy joes, but I don't smell. I'm not like in dirty clothing or things like that.
Right. Right. Yeah. You like your
I,
house
I
to be
don't.
very
So I
orderly.
don't fear. I don't fear. I'm not a germaphobe in that I don't fear germs, but I like hygiene and I'm mindful of looking after my health and my hygiene because
Hygiene is important. Yeah, and in a partner, I can't stand people who smoke or dirty. Like if they have a dirty house, dirty car, they have
yeah,
dirty fingernails, and then they want to
yeah.
touch you. It's like, oh no, 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 no.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not only the possibility of becoming unwell, which then impacts upon what impacts on my ability to do things. It's also the fact that that tells you something about that individual by the fact that they think that that is acceptable to present themselves in that way. So obviously there are circumstances where someone might, again, through whatever they're doing, be covered in mud, etc. That's different. But
Hmm.
where you're someone who regularly, I recall a friend of mine telling me, for instance, about somebody who worked in his office who had a real body odor problem, absolutely horrendous. He said you would go in his office 2 hours after he'd left for the day and it would still smell. It was that
Oh
bad.
my god.
And the fact that he didn't seem to recognize it.
Hmm.
And this guy had a girlfriend. She must have had no sense of smell because
Mm.
Lord knows how she could go anywhere near him when he stank to high heaven like that. It's
I
that kind of,
can't either. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Susan wants to know: have you ever slept with a royal?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Have you ever slept with anyone who is famous?
Yes.
Okay. Um, let's see. Um, yeah, I have a sensitive nose too. Absolutely. Have you ever had an IPPS who maybe wasn't a clean housekeeper, had some bad habits, and after being with you, they changed their habits for you, became clean and more tidy because they were dating you and
Uh,
you couldn't force them to?
they may have become cleaner, but I wouldn't choose anybody that was slovenly to begin with. They wouldn't pass muster, so they wouldn't have been made the IPPS.
Oh, so you have to date someone for a little while before they get that status because you got to really get to know them.
Oh
See
yes, you
how
don't
they're
make somebody into a partner primary source at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
One reconnoiters them and assesses them and targets them and ascertains that they're going to be the right stuff before embedding them as the intimate partner primary source. Absolutely. It's interesting when you talk about you have a sensitive nose. I actually don't. Um, and
Really?
yeah, so I I obviously can smell things and I like to smell good, but I don't have that. I came to realize I don't have that keen a sense of smell, which I think is possibly part of the reason why I'm able to assess a lot orally and visually, because I've noticed, for instance, I had one intimate partner primary source, and she had one of the keenest senses of smell that I'd ever witnessed. And she would be able to smell something, and I go, I can't smell that at all. And then you get closer to the source, and you go, blimey, you were able to smell that quite some distance away. Now, she did have a particularly keen sense of smell, but I've noticed that for me, I can distinguish between things. So it's not like, oh, I'm not sure what this is. I know, oh, yeah, that's burnt toast. Yes, that's lemon. That's coffee. I can distinguish, but I can't pick up the sense of smell from distance particularly well. And it has been suggested that that's linked to my psychopathy. But
Really? So that
yeah.
was always something as a child. You never had a keen sense of smell until you got like maybe really close to something and you could
Yeah,
smell
which
it.
actually
Oh.
is advantageous as well, because
Mm.
one of the things that often causes people to recoil is the smell of things. Obviously, you have sort of visual disgust, but for instance, there might be some people that could watch something on television and not affect them, put them in the real life situation where you get the scent of it all, and it has a
Mhm.
much more visceral impact upon them, because your senses are being assailed. And naturally, because I don't experience fear or anxiety because of my psychopathy, it doesn't hit the same way. But I wonder if that might also be because smell doesn't impact on me to the same extent that it might somebody else, my sense of smell being blunted somewhat. I can still smell, but I don't think it's anywhere near as heightened as other people, which I think perhaps assists me as part of that response that I have.
But obviously when you're close with someone, then you can start to pick up the scents but it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I like someone to smell clean. I like
yeah,
particular
you do
uh,
like clean
scents.
scents.
Yeah, so when they're close to me and they smell good, all the better for me to sink my teeth into them.
Yeah, I noticed, as we mentioned in a previous live, that you do have a fascination with cleanliness,
Yeah,
and the shower and control. And when you talked about you looked at the doctor, you could tell she had freshly washed her hair. Like you
yes,
notice those types of things about people,
yes,
how clean they are, the scent.
yes.
The Royalty House wants to know, what is your favorite type of underwear for women?
My favorite type of underwear.
On the floor?
Um, sorry, you say on the floor? Yes,
Yeah.
well, that did come to my mind, or the one that I'm currently holding in my teeth was the other.
Granny panties?
The other. No, not granny panties. Not particularly bothered really about thongs. I find something that is classy. For instance, turning up wearing some split crotch knickers. Yeah, easy access. Well, that's never been a problem, so I'm not particularly bothered about that. But either white or black or sapphire blue that is classy, that suits you and is fitted properly, so that it's not squeezing too much and not hanging off you. So that's what I
Ah,
would go for.
a well-fitted panty.
And bra. Hmm.
No pink panties.
No pink pant. No, I'm not particularly bothered about pink.
You like the black lace ones? Okay.
Well, yeah,
Um, cotton
black,
ones.
white, or as I say, sapphire blue.
So that's your favorite color. Okay. Okay, guys, let me know if you have any other questions. This is a very fun conversation. Let's see here. Trying to get one here. Someone says, I wonder if that's connected to being a psychopath. I'm not sure what you mean. Is that the control aspect?
Yeah,
Um,
very helpful to say. I wonder if that, and not actually specify what that is, given that I've spoken about lots of different things. But
oh,
doesn't mean.
here's the one I wanted to ask you. Now, I know recently you did a series where you had 3
Yep.
IPPSs escape. Has there been any added to the list since then?
No, it's the three that got away.
Okay, so normally you said you're a no. We'll talk about this more in November when we get into empaths and targets. Excuse me, but you're more of a nomad. So
That's
once
right.
you're done with someone, you're done. You don't want to go back to them. You're just over it.
Well, I'm done with them in the sense of I no longer require them as an intimate partner primary source, so they'll be a former intimate partner primary source. But I might revisit them by way of a Hoover because there's still entertainment to be had.
Do you sleep with your exes?
I have done, yes.
You have done. Okay, but never bring them back into the dating fold.
They never come back to be a girlfriend. No,
Okay,
they've lost that privilege.
they've lost that privilege. Okay.
Privileges have been revoked.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, this has been very fun and enlightening. And HG has a lot of information about sex and the narcissist. He even has a book called Sex and the Narcissist that you can go to Amazon. And we do have a link in the comments if you'd like to purchase this book, as well as his website. He has a wealth of information over on his website, narsite.com, where you can see all this information that he has, plenty of books, plenty of YouTube videos that he has done on sex and the narcissist. So if you don't know, HD Tudor does have a YouTube channel, HD Tudor Knowing the Narcissist. So you can go over and subscribe for free. Someone actually didn't know that it was free to
Mm.
subscribe. So yes, you can subscribe for free to anyone's YouTube channel. So go over and check out HD Tudor, the Ultra, as well as his other channel, Narcissism and Psychopathy. You're at almost 10,000 followers on this channel.
Getting there, as you can see, there's a video there about hypersexuality and the
Yes,
narcissist.
I saw that.
Excuse me. So that I'd encourage people to watch that. It's very interesting.
Yes, he goes
And
into a lot of detail. Mhm.
yeah, the book that you showed, that was the old cover. There's a much better cover now. But I would very much encourage people, if they're interested in understanding about the way that a narcissist, the psychopathic view of sex is something that I would cover in a separate publication. But the way that a narcissist looks at sex and the way that they interact with people, it's really important that people read that, because not only is it really interesting, and regularly out of people who've been following my work for years, they say that's the one that had the biggest impact on them in terms of jaw-dropping moments and goodness me and so forth, not because of it being horrible. So if you're concerned about being frightened or worried by it, it's not that. It's not, although it's about sex, it's not sort of narc porn, because that becomes tiresome. It's about explaining the behaviors, and it's more the revelations that people are like, goodness me, I never realized that. That's a real eye opener. And they're stunned by what they learned. So I'd very much encourage people to go and obtain a copy of that. It's not particularly expensive, and it's a really interesting read, very insightful, and will tell you plenty about why the narcissist behaves as they does in relation to sex, because it's naturally a hugely expansive subject. And naturally, I've answered as many questions as I can in the course of today, but there's so much more that one can talk about in relation to it. But there's only so much time available today. So go and have a read of that and learn more.
Yes, and it's been very, very interesting and delightful to speak with you once again. And this person's asking, will HD join us in the live tomorrow? I
What's
don't,
that?
I have no idea. Mary, could you elaborate what live you're speaking about?
Well,
Yeah.
I see. I would also add as well, because I know people are interested in terms of learning more about the relationships that I've had and the intimate partner primary sources that I've dealt with. But also, I've explained about some of my sexual history in relation to when I was a boy and a young man. You'll learn more about that in a forthcoming book that's called Educating HG. There's a handful of videos on that subject, but there's a heck of a lot more to tell you about all of that, which again segues with the topic that Michelle and I have been discussing today. There's also, if you go into the woods with HG, which also has a sexual angle to it as well. And then there's the Asylum of the Grotesque, which will tell you more. There are several videos and blog articles in relation to the Asylum of the Grotesque explaining more about various intimate partner primary sources of mine. And there will be a book that encompasses all of the relationships that I have had that are intimate partner primary sources, all the way through from the very first one until now, which you'll find fascinating.
Oh, okay. I guess they want to know if you're going to do a live on your channel.
Oh, they mean when there's a premiere and in live chat. Well, it depends on whether it coincides with if I'm in a meeting on telephone consulting with people. So if I'm available, the answer is yes. If I'm not available, the answer is no.
Okay. Okay, sounds interesting, but I'm so glad you were here live today and were able
Yes.
to interact with us because you don't do a lot of lives.
No. Primarily, I don't tend to do that many on my channel because of time constraints. It's more effective for me when I create my videos. The time of when I'm doing it isn't necessarily when most of the audience is actually about and awake. So consequently, if I was to do a live at the times which would suit me, it wouldn't necessarily suit a lot of the audience. And then for many people, when they're available, I'm not, because of the various professional commitments that I have. I would like to do more of them because they are entertaining, taking people's questions. So they will happen in due course. It's just a case of when I find time to do so. And naturally, with other people, it tends to be the case when they want to have a discussion with me, it's done by way of a pre-recorded interview. So then it's at a mutually convenient time. But obviously, we've done our third collaboration now, Michelle.
Yes, I've been so lucky. And Ivy says we
line, so yeah,
that's right. And Ivy says we hope you do more collabs together, and we are. We are planning a really fun Halloween paranormal one for Halloween. So maybe HT will read us a scary poem or something like that. I wanted him to wear a costume, but he said no. Maybe next time.
I might wear it, but you can't see it. That's the issue.
Can't see it? Okay. So you guys will have to tune in next month. HD will come back again for another live show. We're going to talk about ghost, paranormal, do some, this or that Halloween special. So make sure you guys tune in. Go check out his YouTube channel. Go check out his website. And as always, HD, thank you so much for being here. And we're just going to say happy birthday since we don't know what day your birthday's on.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you very much for your questions. And thank you, everybody, for attending and listening and posing your own questions also. It is appreciated that you give your time to listen and get educated about narcissism and psychopathy. So thank you all, and thank you, Michelle.
Bye, guys.